At the headquarters of the Galactic Council, a massive hall illuminated by the light of thousands of control screens, the previously quiet and solemn atmosphere was shattered by murmurs of shock, astonishment, and fear. In the three-dimensional space of the central screen, a menacing image emerged. USS Relentless, humanity's colossal warship, had just exited FTL, faster than light, travel, and now hovered ominously at the heart of the Talon star system, the very core of the Taluron Empire. "What is this?" a delegate from the Xylan species stammered, his multifaceted eyes blinking frantically. "That ship, is it from the humans?" "Impossible. They cannot enter here so easily," another voice rang out, full of both anger and fear. Every member of the council, from the ancient races to the fledgling empires, had their eyes glued to the screen. The USS Relentless loomed large, its immense and terrifying silhouette like a ghost from a dark past. The ship remained motionless, silent like a predator stalking its prey. Along its hull, ominous red lights flickered, a clear warning that its weapons systems were primed and ready to fire. On the command bridge, the air felt frozen. Captain Ethan Vance stood among the control screens and dozens of officers, the cold blue light of the consoles casting shadows across his battle-hardened face. Scars ran down from his cheek to his neck, silent evidence of the life-or-death battles he had survived. "Status report," Ethan ordered, his voice low and sharp as a blade. "We've exited FTL and are now in the central region of the Talon system, Captain. 320 Taluron warships have surrounded us. Their weapons systems are locked onto our ship," reported Executive Officer Gabriel Lee, his eyes fixed on his console. "They're transmitting a communication signal," Lieutenant Samira Allen added, hand raised to her earpiece. Ethan smirked a dangerous and mocking expression. He stepped forward, eyes locked on the main screen, where hundreds of Taluron warships appeared like a vast swarm of sharks. "What an honor to be welcomed so grandly." A chime sounded, and the screen on the Relentless shifted to reveal the face of Voker, Supreme Commander of the Taluron Empire. Voker was a towering figure, his gray, metallic skin gleaming, and his deep crimson eyes flashing with malice as he glared at Ethan. His voice boomed, both contemptuous and cruel. "Humans, you dare set foot in my territory again? What do you intend to do? Come here to beg for mercy?" Ethan sneered, his voice icy and unwavering. "I'm not here to beg, Voker. I'm here to end this once and for all." The atmosphere on the bridge froze. Every officer aboard the Relentless knew what those words meant. Ethan had no intention of negotiating or retreating. From the human Taluron War 10 years ago, Ethan had lost his family, friends, and comrades. Memories of humanity's colonies being wiped out, flames consuming everything, and the agonizing screams of children, women, and the elderly still haunted him every night. Ethan's hand hovered over the weapons console, where rows of forbidden human technology were now activated. These were not ordinary weapons. They were remnants of Project Ragnarok, a weapons program deemed inhumane and banned by the Galactic Council. But Ethan didn't care. To him, the Taluron deserved the price for their atrocities. "Captain," Gabriel Lee said softly, hesitation in his voice, "are we sure about this? If the Council finds out..." "Forget the Council," Ethan cut him off, his eyes still locked on the Taluron fleet. "They stood by and watched in silence while we were slaughtered. Today, they will learn a lesson." He turned back to the screen, where Voker's face still sneered mockingly. Voker had no idea that he was staring into the face of a nightmare he couldn't possibly imagine. Ethan exhaled slowly, then gave the command. "Activate weapons systems. Target their largest warship." Outside the Relentless, missile hatches began to open slowly, blood-red lights flashing along the ship's hull. Hundreds of antimatter warheads deployed, their targeting systems locking onto the core of the Taluron fleet, still confident in its overwhelming numbers. No one in the Talon system, and not even the Galactic Council, knew that at that very moment, the seeds of an inevitable war were being sown, and Ethan Vance was the man who would light the match. Inside the warship USS Relentless, the air was heavy and tense, ready to explode. The main screen on the command bridge flared to life, showing the image of Grand Marshal Zyrek, known as the Iron Hand of the Taluron Empire. Zyrek stood tall, imposing, and arrogant like a god of war. His golden eyes glowed like two miniature suns, radiating contempt and defiance. The polished black armor clinging to his massive frame made him look even more like a killing machine forged to dominate the galaxy. One ship. Zyrek sneered, his dry laughter echoing through the comm system, causing officers aboard the Relentless to clench their hands tightly on their consoles. You humans truly don't know fear. You come to the heart of the Taluron Empire with just one warship for what? To beg for mercy. His voice dripped with scorn and ridicule. Behind him, visible through the screen, Taluron warships were forming their attack formations, their massive guns slowly locking onto USS Relentless. Each ship resembled a steel monster growling in deadly silence. Captain Ethan Vance did not respond immediately. He silently stepped forward, his icy blue eyes piercing the screen, locking onto Grand Marshal Zyrek. The Relentless' command bridge was utterly silent, no one dared to breathe too loudly. They knew this was not just a provocation, this was a moment in history that would shape the fate of the entire galaxy. No, Ethan's voice rumbled, deep and commanding, like thunder rolling through space. I didn't come here to beg. I came here to end this once and for all. Zyrek narrowed his eyes, his sneer fading. He knew this man, Ethan Vance, the survivor of countless battles and the ghost that had haunted the Taluron Empire for the past 10 years. Do you wish to die, Vance? Ethan didn't reply. He clenched his right fist and slammed it onto the weapons console. A piercing activation sound echoed throughout the bridge, and the Relentless shuddered violently. Inside the ship, massive flows of energy began surging through conduits, glowing bright blue as though a sleeping monster had awakened. The Relentless' weapons system was unlike anything the Taluron had ever faced. They were the remnants of Project Ragnarok, a top-secret human weapons program during the war. These antimatter warheads and quantum energy cannons had the power to annihilate entire fleets with just a few shots. This technology had been declared inhumane and banned by the Galactic Council for over a decade. The weapon turrets along the Relentless' hull opened, dozens of missile ports glowing brightly in the darkness of space. On Zyrek's screen, red warning symbols flashed relentlessly. The Taluron AI systems quickly calculated the Relentless' attack potential. The result sent shockwaves through the Taluron command bridge. Estimated fleet destruction level, 84% in a single volley. That's impossible, a Taluron officer stammered, eyes wide in terror. Zyrek squinted, trying to maintain his composure. You think a few relics of your obsolete technology can threaten us, Vance? The Taluron Empire is invincible. Ethan smirked, his voice cold and unwavering. Let's see about that. Fire! Ethan commanded. Immediately, colossal beams of light erupted from the Relentless' cannons. They tore through space, streaking toward the Taluron fleet like deathly whirlwinds. Waves of antimatter missiles detonated among the densely packed enemy formation. On Ethan's screen, Taluron warships erupted like extinguished lanterns, one after another. The explosions were so massive that the surrounding space rippled violently, sending shockwaves radiating for hundreds of kilometers. The Taluron fleet fell into chaos. The remaining ships scrambled desperately, trying to evade the Relentless' deadly barrage. Zyrek stood frozen on his command bridge, his face contorted with anger and disbelief. This lunatic. He actually dares. Aboard the Relentless, Ethan remained still, his gaze locked on the screen. The explosions reflected in his eyes, but there was no satisfaction or triumph in his expression. To him, this was only the beginning. Captain, the Taluron fleet is reorganizing. They're sending distress signals to nearby systems, Gabriel Lee reported. "Let them call for reinforcements," Ethan replied, his voice filled with resolve. "Today, we will show them the price of the war they unleashed." On the other side, Zyrek ground his teeth, his fists clenching the armrests of his command chair. "Deploy every ship. Full attack. Wipe that vessel out immediately." In the darkness of the Talon star system, the Taluron fleet began its counterattack. Hundreds of laser beams and energy cannons rained toward the Relentless. But Ethan and his ship stood unshaken. "We'll fight to the end," Ethan murmured, his voice like a solemn vow. In the vast blackness of the galaxy, the USS Relentless held firm, a symbol of humanity's fury and resilience, a defiant declaration of war against the Taluron Empire. On the massive command bridge of the Taluron flagship, Grand Marshal Zyrek's face paled as red alerts flashed incessantly. The shrill wail of alarms echoed through the command room, blending with the harsh sounds of computers and officers shouting in desperation. "Impossible!" Zyrek roared, his golden eyes filled with shock and panic. "One ship cannot possibly possess such energy." In front of him, the massive screen displayed the USS Relentless, standing tall and defiant in the dark void of space like an impregnable fortress. The ship's armor glowed faintly, absorbing thousands of barrages from the Taluron fleet. Massive energy projectiles from 300 warships poured relentlessly onto a single target, yet strangely, not a single shot could pierce the ship's armor. It absorbed the attacks completely, like water pouring into the sea. "Have we scanned the shield frequencies?" a Taluron officer shouted in panic. "Sir, there are no matching frequencies. This shielding isn't like any technology we've ever seen." Zyrek clenched his fists, his voice dropping to a growl. "What kind of technology is this? What have the humans done?" Inside the Relentless, Captain Ethan Vance stood tall at the center of the command bridge, perfectly calm amidst the storm of battle. The control screens around him were flooded with data from weapons systems, defense statuses, and tactical maps of the Taluron fleet. His ice-blue eyes scanned the chaotic movements of enemy ships on the three-dimensional display. "They're panicking, Captain," Gabriel Lee reported from the weapons control station. "They don't know how to breach our shields." Ethan's mouth curved into a cold smile. "Now it's our turn." His hand moved swiftly across the console, issuing commands to activate the weapons systems. A deep mechanical hum resonated throughout the ship as hundreds of missile launchers and energy turrets began to deploy. Colossal streams of energy pulsed along the hull of the Relentless, making it glow like a deadly star in the vast darkness of space. The devastating counterattack. "Lock onto their flagship," Ethan ordered, his voice calm but resolute. "Target locked," Gabriel confirmed, his fingers trembling slightly over the touch screen. "Fire!" Immediately, hundreds of high-energy missiles shot out from the Relentless, like spears of light slicing through the void. They hurtled straight toward the Taluron flagship, the largest and most powerful ship in the enemy fleet. "Defensive systems. Activate energy shields," Zyrek shouted, but it was already too late. The first wave of missiles struck the flagship's shields, erupting into blinding explosions. The energy shield wavered violently under the immense power. But the next missiles came too quickly, exploiting the shield's weakened points. A massive explosion tore through the center of the Taluron flagship. The blast was so bright it could be seen from hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. Chain reactions spread rapidly through the ship's core, from the main reactor to the munitions storage. Within seconds, the colossal ship was ripped apart, disintegrating into cosmic debris before the helpless eyes of the Taluron fleet. "The flagship has been destroyed," a Taluron officer screamed, his voice breaking with panic. "What kind of power is this?" Zyrek muttered, his eyes wide as he watched the final image of his flagship consumed by fire. Meanwhile, the Relentless continued its assault. Ethan commanded the ship like a master strategist, with volleys of missiles and energy blasts hitting their targets with pinpoint precision. Taluron warships surrounding the Relentless exploded one after another in massive detonations. Some ships tried to flee, but homing missiles chased them down and destroyed them effortlessly. The surrounding space was filled with debris from Taluron warships and blazing clouds of fire. On the bridge of the Relentless, Ethan stood motionless, a stoic monument amidst the destruction. His gaze remained fixed on the screen, where the remaining Taluron ships were scattering in disarray. The battlefield was now nothing more than a graveyard drifting in the void. "Captain, the Taluron fleet has lost more than half its forces," Gabriel reported, his voice tinged with excitement. Ethan didn't respond immediately. His eyes looked distant, a shadow passing through them. This battle wasn't about victory or defeat, it was a warning, a reckoning for what the Taluron had done to humanity 10 years ago. "They'll be back," Ethan said softly, his voice resonating through the silent bridge. "And we'll be waiting for them." The USS Relentless drifted quietly amidst the wreckage-strewn space. It was more than just humanity's most powerful warship, it was a symbol of resilience, fury, and the unyielding determination of mankind. Space was filled with the wreckage of the Taluron fleet, lingering clouds of fire still burning brightly. The USS Relentless stood tall amidst the ashes of its enemies, like a vengeful god in the cold vacuum of the universe. Captain Ethan Vance, his sharp gaze unwavering, stared at the planet Talon displayed on the massive screen before him. "Planet Talon is within firing range," Officer Gabriel Lee reported, his hand hovering over the controls. "Awaiting your command, Captain." Ethan remained silent, his icy blue eyes glowing with a deep-seated fury. Memories from 10 years ago surged back: destroyed cities, the wailing cries of children, and the blinding light of explosions that wiped out millions of human lives under the ruthless hand of the Taluron Empire. Now, he had the chance to deliver justice, or at the very least, vengeance. "Prepare the main energy cannons," Ethan ordered, his voice low and thunderous. "Lock onto Talon's central administration hub." Just as the firing sequence was initiated, a powerful and unfamiliar signal appeared on the Relentless's radar systems. Alarms blared across the command bridge, shattering the tense silence. "Unidentified signal approaching the combat zone." Gabriel shouted in alarm. "Magnify on the main screen," Ethan commanded. From the depths of the dark void, a massive shadow emerged: GCS Arbiter, the flagship of the Galactic Council. The Arbiter was no ordinary warship, it was a colossal mobile fortress, 3 times the length of the Relentless, armored with diamond hard plating and equipped with the most advanced weaponry feared across the galaxy. As the Council's behemoth drew closer, starlight reflected off its hull, revealing its colossal energy cannons and intricate defensive systems spread across its surface like a web. The very presence of the ship seemed to suffocate the surrounding space. A deep voice reverberated through the main comms. "USS Relentless, this is the GCS Arbiter representing the Galactic Council. Cease all hostile actions immediately, or we will be forced to destroy you." On the Relentless bridge, Ethan's fists clenched tightly. The Council's voice, cold and authoritative, made the air in the room drop several degrees. The officers aboard the Relentless fell silent, holding their breath as they looked toward their captain. Ethan stepped forward, his gaze as sharp as ice. "The Council? So, you finally decide to show yourselves," he said, his voice dripping with bitterness and scorn. "But where were you when the Taluron Empire slaughtered millions of our civilians? When our cities burned and children were crushed under their boots, what did you do then?" On the other end, the Council representative's voice remained disturbingly calm. "Captain Vance, what you are doing now is an act of unacceptable destruction. We cannot allow you to plunge the galaxy into another war." "War? The war never ended," Ethan bellowed. "You turned a blind eye while the Taluron oppressed and erased us. The false peace you claim to uphold is nothing but a lie." The tension on the bridge was suffocating. Young officers aboard the Relentless exchanged uneasy glances, some trembling slightly as they realized their enemy was no longer Taluron warships easily obliterated, but the GCS Arbiter, a symbol of absolute power in the galaxy. "Captain," Gabriel spoke hesitantly, his voice edged with concern. The Arbiter's systems have locked onto us. I'm not sure our shields can withstand a full-force barrage from that ship. Ethan stood motionless, his hand gripping the control panel. He understood the Council's power all too well. Not only did they possess superior technology, but they also held the political influence to manipulate the entire galaxy. Defying them would turn the Relentless into a common enemy of all. Yet, deep within Ethan, the flames of rage continued to burn fiercely. He couldn't forget what the Taluron had done. The Council might pretend to stand aside, but he could not. "Captain, please give the order," Gabriel said softly. "What are we going to do?" Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, as if suppressing the storm of emotions raging within him. When he opened them, his gaze was steely and resolute. "Open a channel to the Arbiter," Ethan ordered. "I will speak to the Council one last time." The screen before him lit up, and the image of the Council's representative, a silver-haired woman with a face as cold as stone, appeared. "Captain Vance, stop before it's too late," she said, her sharp gaze locking onto him. Ethan stepped closer, meeting her stare through the screen. "Listen carefully, Council," he said, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. "Your actions pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. I will not let that happen again." A silence hung heavy in the air, stretching for what felt like an eternity. On board the Relentless, everyone held their breath. Across the line, the councilwoman's expression wavered for just a moment before returning to its icy calm. "Then you've made your choice." Outside, the Arbiter's massive energy cannons began to glow, preparing to fire. For a moment, it seemed as though the entire universe held its breath before the impending battle. Ethan stood tall, his resolve unshaken as he uttered his final command. "Then we fight." The bridge of the USS Relentless was steeped in silence. All eyes were on Captain Ethan Vance as he stood motionless before the display screen. Outside, the planet Talon, the heart of the Taluron Empire, was within perfect firing range. On the radar, thousands of tiny dots, representing the escape pods of Taluron civilians, began moving away from the planet's surface. They were leaving everything behind, scrambling to flee from their predetermined fate. Those tiny rescue vessels appeared like faint specks of dust amidst the vastness of space. Ethan clenched both hands tightly on the console. His heart was heavy. This was the moment he had dreamed of for a decade, the chance to wipe out the enemy that had destroyed his home world. The Taluron warriors, with their cold and ruthless faces, had slaughtered millions of human civilians without hesitation. They needed no reason, offered no mercy. And now, their fate lay in Ethan's hands. "Captain," Gabriel Lee whispered, his eyes brimming with concern. "The firing order is still ready." The entire bridge seemed to hold its breath, waiting for Ethan's decision. His warrior instincts and seething rage screamed, "Fire!" How many years had he waited for this moment? How much loss and suffering demanded justice? The faces of his departed loved ones, his wife, his children, his friends, flooded back into his mind like ghosts. But then, those images began to fade, replaced by another memory. Ethan recalled the day the Taluron Empire attacked Earth. Giant ships appeared in the sky, raining down pillars of fire that incinerated everything. Entire cities were reduced to ash within hours. He could still hear the cries of children abandoned amidst the rubble, the desperate screams of mothers shielding their young from energy bombs. But Ethan also remembered the glimmers of hope that emerged during those years of brutal war, moments when humanity found ways to forgive, to offer help even to those who had been enemies. Once, he had led a rescue team to a Taluron city that had collapsed from internal conflict. Instead of leaving the civilians to die, Ethan ordered his men to evacuate them to safety, despite fierce protests from his comrades. "We are different," he had told his subordinates. "If we retaliate with destruction, we are no different from them." Ethan opened his eyes, as though those memories had led him to a final decision. He stared at the dots on the screen, rescue ships carrying thousands of trembling lives, desperately seeking escape from death. These were not soldiers, not the cruel Taluron warriors, they were civilians, people who had never taken part in this war. If we fire, what will we become? Ethan whispered, as if asking himself. Captain. Gabriel repeated, his eyes searching for an answer. Ethan took a deep breath. His voice was calm and resolute. Open a universal broadcast channel. Gabriel nodded and carried out the order. Within seconds, the image of Captain Ethan Vance, his determined eyes and weary face, appeared on the communication screens of every surviving Taluron vessel and rescue pod. Listen carefully, Ethan said, his voice echoing like thunder across the void of space. We humans have suffered destruction at your hands, families, homes, and millions of lives lost to the greed and cruelty of the Taluron Empire. Today, I have the opportunity to wipe you out. Those words cut through the air like a blade. Every officer on the Relentless fell silent. The Taluron survivors in their rescue pods held their breath, their eyes glued to the image of Captain Ethan Vance. But we will not become like you, he continued, his voice firm and cold. I do not fire on the weak or on innocent civilians. Find somewhere else to live. This planet belongs to you, but your pride and your weapons have turned it into ashes. Leave this place and never challenge humanity again. We do not forgive, but we will not become monsters. On board the Relentless, the officers seemed unable to believe what they had heard. Gabriel turned to Ethan, his eyes a mix of surprise and admiration. Outside in space, the Taluron ships continued to move, slowly and shakily, as if they could not comprehend that they had just been spared. Captain, Gabriel whispered. You let them go. Ethan turned back, his eyes calm and weary. War doesn't just kill the enemy, it kills our humanity. If we strike down innocent civilians today, we're no different from them. He turned to look at the main display, where the planet Talon still loomed, silent like a ghost in the void of space. The shattered remains of Taluron warships drifted nearby, stark evidence of the brutal battle that had just taken place. Order all ships to change course. We're going home. The USS Relentless slowly turned, leaving behind the dying planet Talon and the silent rescue ships. For Ethan, this was not an absolute victory, but it was the right choice. A path that allowed humanity to escape the cycle of hatred and destruction. And in his mind, the ghosts of the past seemed to quietly fade away, replaced by a new hope for the future. Inside the command deck of the USS Relentless, an unusual stillness filled the space as the ship jumped into FTL. The faint streaks of starlight shot past the windows like shimmering trails in an endless void. Captain Ethan Vance relaxed into the command chair. Exhaustion weighed heavily on every fiber of his body, not just from the battle but from the burden of the difficult decision he had made. Captain, navigation systems are stable. We'll return to Alliance space within 8 hours, reported Officer Gabriel Lee, his voice soft yet cautious. Ethan nodded faintly. His gaze drifted far into the silent void ahead. In his mind, the burning Taluron warships, drifting escape pods, and the withering planet Talon remained seared into his memory. The battle was over, but its price was not merely shattered ships or crumbled cities, it was another scar in the history of the galaxy. Captain, do you think they'll come back? Gabriel asked, breaking the silence. Ethan looked at him for a long moment before sighing. The Taluron Empire is proud, but they also know fear. What we did today will make them cautious for a time. But when they regain their strength, they'll come back. His words hung heavily, like stone. Gabriel bowed his head, his gaze distant, as though imagining a future far from peaceful. Meanwhile, in another corner of the galaxy, the Galactic Council held an emergency session. Footage from the battle at Talon replayed on a massive screen, scenes of Taluron warships being obliterated, the planet ablaze, and the USS Relentless engulfed in a devastating energy glow. Captain Vance has crossed the line, roared a virile representative, slamming his fist on the table. He has not only violated peace treaties but indirectly threatened the balance of the entire galaxy. A single ship destroyed an entire fleet, another council member added, his voice trembling. Do you realize how dangerous that is? If humanity possesses more ships like this, we will lose control. In the tense atmosphere, a calm yet commanding voice rang out. It was Allura Cresswell, the senior human representative on the council. Captain Ethan Vance defended the honor of humanity, Allura stated, her eyes cold and piercing. The Taluron Empire destroyed our colonies a decade ago without facing any consequences. Today, they have tasted the price of their arrogance. You may call it an overreach, but to us, it is justice. The chamber fell silent. No one could offer a rebuttal. In the days that followed, news of the battle at Talon and the USS Relentless spread across the star systems. Races throughout the galaxy began to whisper of a new legend, a warship that could not be stopped and a decisive captain who had stood against an empire and forced it to kneel. In the bustling markets of the planet Uranus, merchants retold the story of the Relentless as a tale of legend, blending awe and admiration. Taluron children listened to the accounts of the battle with eyes wide in fear, while strategists of other races began questioning humanity's true strength. One phrase began to circulate like a warning across the star systems. Never challenge humanity. For when they rise, the entire galaxy will tremble. Inside the darkened captain's quarters of the USS Relentless, Ethan sat alone. The glow from a single console cast a dim light on his worn and weary face. The fury, resolve, and determination he had shown in battle were gone. What remained was a man burdened with grief and responsibility. He opened a small box on the table. Inside was a photograph of his family, taken before the war. His wife's gentle smile radiated warmth, while his young daughter clutched a stuffed toy with a joyous grin. Ethan brushed his fingers lightly over the photo and closed his eyes. All of this is for you, he whispered, his voice trembling. The sharp chime of an alert broke the stillness. Gabriel appeared at the door. Captain, we're approaching Alliance space. Ethan rose, his broad shoulders still unyielding like a mountain despite the storms that had battered him. Back on the command deck, Ethan looked out through the massive viewing window at the stars ahead. He knew the battle at Talon was only the beginning of a much larger war to come. The Galactic Council would demand answers, and humanity would face greater challenges than ever before. But from today onward, they had sent a message that could not be misunderstood. Humanity will never bow. Gabriel, Ethan ordered, his voice as firm as steel. Prepare the report for Earth. And remember, we did the right thing. The USS Relentless continued its journey forward, leaving behind a shattered Taluron Empire and a galaxy buzzing with the echoes of its name. The legend of Ethan Vance and his indomitable ship would live on, a symbol of humanity's unyielding strength and resolve. This story will be told forever, in small homes across the colonies, on distant planets, and even in meetings of the Galactic Council. People will remember the moment when a single warship stood firm against an entire empire, and the captain who chose to preserve the last shred of humanity within himself.